right, everybody. We are so excited to be here today. You are listening to Honest to God on AM 1160, The Quest, Atlanta Catholic Radio. Thank you guys so much for being here. This is episode 647 of the show. That's a lie. I don't know what episode it is, so I go with it at the beginning of each one. No, but we're really excited. Our topic today is sort of, we have two fairly newly married couples. We're going to open up and just sort of go down the line and tell us about yourself. And then we're going to get into all things babies and marriage and dating and diapers and all kinds of great stuff. I'm not sure what the episode is, but it's something along those lines. This is the title.
Diaper left unturned.
So we'll start over here with Sean. If you can tell us a little about yourself.
Sounds good. So my name is Sean. I have the great privilege of being the husband of my beautiful wife, Carissa.
Nice.
We were married in January of 2019. And some fun facts about me. I grew up in Georgia. I've been a Georgia native all my life in a small town called Tyrone, Georgia, on the south side. And I grew up with a great upbringing, but not having any real exposure to faith. So I'm a convert to both Christianity, which happened in 2014, as well as a convert then to Catholicism in 2017.
Heck yeah, that's awesome.
Thank you. Yes. So praise be to God for that. And praise be to God for Catholic media, because I spent some time back in 2011 while I was working in Seoul, South Korea, of all places, doing a college internship. Started watching Bishop Barron videos on YouTube. So that was kind of my first foot in the door through just evangelization to the Christian faith, much less Catholicism, and have been a big follower of Bishop Barron ever since.
That's awesome. Yeah, we're big fans. Carissa.
All right, I'm Carissa. I was a hula hoop missionary for a long time.
Great.
Started a nonprofit. I've been sober for almost 12 years. I'm a Catholic convert, Easter of 2017, before I met Sean. And then I met my now husband at a hula hoop making party at his house because of AJ. So that is a very fun fact that brought us all together.
Lots of hula hoop related life events. That's cool. Okay.
Yep. And then we have two kids, two little girls. Absolutely love birth so much that I am starting my training to be a doula.
Oh, that is killer. Awesome. That's great. AJ.
All right. Hey, everyone. I'm a matchmaker, apparently, and I am honored to... Well, I'm AJ. You introduced me, I guess, as well. So fun facts about me. I am married to my amazingly wonderful wife, Sarah. I was born in a small town in Northside in Elbert County, and I'm mirroring mine after Sean, because Sean and I went to school together at Georgia Tech. Inherited my faith growing up Catholic, but didn't really choose to own my faith until the end of college, where the young adult community here in Atlanta really helped guide me back to my faith and to the roots of the church, and really kind of growing in holiness. And then I met Sarah, who's continued to kind of drive me to holiness each and every day. We've been married since 2019 and have one child, our son Roland, who's about a year and a half.
Any hula hoop related news from your life, AJ? It seems to be a theme.
Yeah, I know. Hips don't lie.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I don't know, Sarah, what would you say?
We've made quite a few hula hoops
Hoops?
in our day. Yeah, thanks to Chris.
I thought you were referring to Roland.
No. Awesome. Hey everyone, my name is Sarah. As AJ mentioned, I am married to this guy over here. I am also a convert to the faith. Actually, Sean and I went through our RCIA program together. Although I could have sworn it was 2018. It was.
Yes.
Okay.
Another fun fact, I'm terrible at dates.
Yeah.
It's a good one. It's all right.
2018, thank you for the correction.
But I was trying to remember. I was like, I've slept since then and had a child, so that's double the memory that you forget. I grew up in the North Georgia mountains near Blue Ridge. I went to Georgia Tech. I mean, not Georgia Tech. Oh, that was you. I went to UGA and then married someone from Georgia Tech.
Nice.
So house
I didn't know you were
divided.
allowed to do that.
Yeah, I
that's
didn't
cool.
either. And then it just happened. So, yep. I was actually going to do one little fun fact. I was going to say my favorite food group is Mexican. So there you go.
I dig it.
Yeah.
No, that's fantastic.
It's on my list, so I had to say it. But yes, also the parent of a very energetic toddler, and life is interesting every day.
And let's review real quick. How old is Roland?
One and a half.
1.5. So you have 1.5-year-old.
Yep.
And then you guys?
We have 2.5 and some plus, and then a 16-month-old.
Okay.
Both girls.
That's great. I've got I have a 10-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 4-year-old right now. So it's a
Fun.
party, man. It's really great. Ben, how many kids do you have over there?
No children. I am 19 years old.
All right. Way to go, producer Ben.
Single
Good
and ready
job.
to mingle. No.
Ben is not single,
I'm
ladies.
not single,
Off the
actually.
market, girls. We don't need
Just
a bunch
don't
of
have
people
any
calling
children.
in.
No matchmaking here today.
So this is exciting, and I'm extra excited because I have a little more time with you guys. We're going to try to do a two-parter today. So normally these things just fly by. So hopefully we can get into a little more than we normally do. My first question and my big one, and this won't all just be me asking and you answering. If you have anything to say, just give me a little hand, and I will absolutely bring you in. What years were you married again? Could you guys remind me?
I'm terrible at
January
dates, but it was
2019.
January 2019. I think I got that one
2019,
correct.
and
Thank
then
God.
September 2019.
oh, nice. Okay. At hula hoop themed weddings in Georgia. That's killer. Okay. So my big question is, before we even get into the marriage stuff, I just had a couple of conversations. The last few shows we did were with young people, college students, young adults starting their careers. We talked a lot about dating. Previously, we talked a lot about community. We talked about where to find people who are not just going to drag us down, because we live in 2022 in the United States of America. And unfortunately, we're watching the decay of Western civilization all around us. Hopefully, it's going to stop and reverse itself. But right now, I mean, we're living in a pretty difficult position. And I was spoiled, right? I married my wife when I was 21 years old. We met in college, and we sort of existed in this sort of, some people might say bubble, but a community, right? And so I was spared a lot of the worst of what's going on out there. But what was your dating experience like? Like when you met this person, right, that you are now married to and sacramentally bound to till the day you die. How exciting, right? But you're doing that in, and I hesitate to use the word Sodom and Gomorrah as an analogy, but just as our broken world that we live in, what does that look like? How do you date and date like you're supposed to now? Any volunteers? I know, heavy stuff.
I guess I'll get us started. So for me, I mentioned I converted to Christianity in 2014, and I was 24 years old at the time. So I had to relearn how to date. And one thing that I learned as I was relearning how to date as a man is just being clear with your intentions as you're getting to know somebody, and to do it with a sense of grace on both sides, understanding how many emotions are involved in the process of dating. It's a very difficult process to go through, I think, particularly in this day and age because of, right, you mentioned, John Henry, we're in 2022. And I think with that, one of the frustrations for me was feeling like, am I on the same page with the opposite sex just when it goes to why I'm dating, why I'm here, why I'm interested. And I think that one of my things would be clear with your intentions. That was a really helpful thing for me, and something that I think was just good, both with the people that I dated prior to meeting my wife.
Can you flesh that out? What does that mean, being clear with your intentions?
Being clear with your intentions in the sense that you are interested in getting to know somebody for the purpose of eventually getting married.
Sure.
And not just sin is always masked in ambiguity, right? Let's put it that way. So there's a classic behavioral pattern, I think, that plenty of young people can fall into, whether or not you are in the Christian faith, where you like to go out, you have some drinks, you're not really brave enough to just straight up ask a girl out on a date, so maybe you just try to see if you can get some alcohol involved, or have a party, or be the fun guy, or all these different performance-based behaviors. Whereas when you're clear with your intentions, what you're doing as a man is you're saying, hi, I like you, I think you're beautiful, I'd like to go on a date with you. If you say no, it will hurt. Right. Guess what? I'm enough of a man to be hurt.
Yeah.
So as somebody who works with high school and college age guys on a pretty regular basis, I have that conversation a lot. And the idea that why I sort of poo-poo the idea of the woman asking the guy out on the date, or the girl proposing to the guy or something, it's because that is a very masculine thing that requires courage and putting yourself out there. What you're doing, even if it's something as simple as saying, hey, will you go to prom with me? Right? What
Yes.
you're doing is saying, I think that you are worth the risk and the pain and the heartache of walking out on that plank. And I could be rejected. I could be knocked off the side of that, but I'm doing that because you're worth it. And you're also worth me not sending it to you in a text message, but actually saying it to you face to face. That's a little, younger than we're talking about here, but that's a thing that I have conversations with a lot. Actually having conversations and being upfront. And it's a courageous thing that is demands a really masculine person to do that. So that's great.
What if you meet halfway when it comes to asking someone out? I'll let AJ.
Oh no, I don't want to get anybody in trouble here, AJ.
No. Fun story is like I met Sarah at a wedding. She was the only single bridesmaids, I like to say, and I did as I got to know her at the wedding a little bit on the way out. I was like, we should totally hang out sometime, and I think we both like the show Reba, and we lived not too far from each other in Atlanta, and we're probably the only people in Atlanta that like the show Reba. Yes. We should hang out sometime. And
Reba's in the sitcoms with Reba McEntire from the early 2000s. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
It's kind of reliving my childhood, I guess. And then Sarah, I stopped there and said, I think we should hang out sometime. And then I was in my car at the time when I was leaving the wedding, and then I was going to drive off. And so you walked over and said, that sounds nice. Would you want to ask for my number or something, maybe?
And I'm sorry to keep going back and forth. Did you yell from your rolled down window, we should hang out sometime? And then just sort of start to go forward?
Kind of like, how would you describe it? I think I was being macho.
So, I mean, it kind of was a romantic setup. We were just, I was leaving the wedding. It was starting to drizzle, and he's driving by with his car and rolls the window down and proceeds to say all the things that he just said. And then just like that, he was we should hang out sometime, and then kind of was inching away. I was like, wait, I feel like this conversation isn't finished yet. And I have never been that bold before, but there was something about him and something in me that was well, do you want to ask for my number? And his response was, yeah.
Nice. No, that still counts. You totally took the first step of we should hang out sometime. She wouldn't have sprinted after you yelling, do you want to ask for my number, had you not done that.
Probably not, but thankfully I didn't have to. So
that was a good compromise.
Yeah, I like that. We met halfway.
It's a good analogy for marriage in general, right? Yes. That is way better than the picture of you just punching it and But that would have been kind of cool if you had been mysteriously disappeared. Yeah. Okay, so both of you are dating, right? Both couples are dating now, right? And once again, you're dating in this world, and we're surrounded by everything from pornography to the hookup culture to 90% of people meeting somebody on Tinder, some dating app or whatever. And I assume there's a lot of pressures from the outside world to behave a certain way, right? To behave in a way that's unchaste, not just physically, but emotionally, right? And to not view it as, not date towards marriage, right? Which is what we were supposed to do. Was that a struggle? And if so, what did that struggle look like? Yeah.
So before I became a Christian, I had we'll just say a wicked life. I have a pretty dark testimony, addiction, sexual promiscuity. So the Lord healed me a lot. I went through 12-step recovery back in 2010, made amends to a lot of people, have had my own challenges with abuse, assault, etc. So I had a lot to work through. So I had a new, let's call celibacy for 10 years. But it was really important to me. I was a missionary. I was traveling. I gave a lot of talks on purity. So for me, boundaries were extremely important. I also didn't want to date because had a lot of fear, had a lot of anxiety too.
Right.
But I was I will not do dating apps. I'm just going to let God, blow my mind with who he brings across my path. But as I became a Catholic convert, I just had such a passion for Jesus and mission work. So I actually had gone to a religious life discernment retreat the weekend before meeting Sean.
Cool. That's awesome.
I was maybe I should be a nun. And then I went to spiritual direction. I'm I'm 50-50. Just God, if you have a husband for me, just drop him in my lap. Literally 2 days later, I met Sean at his house. And I was okay, this is this is interesting. He asked for my number. I gave him my business card. I went to India the next day for 2 months.
As you do, right? Sure.
So he pursued me on video call and had a flower over the internet.
Ultimate hard to get. I like that. Okay.
But by the time I came home 2 months later, I said, I really feel this is God's answer. I think I'm going to marry this guy. But we had a very boundary-driven relationship. We really were moving fast towards marriage. We kind of knew about marriage quickly, but we, for Lent, we gave up desire and said we're not going to kiss till the end of Lent, and just really wanted our intentions to be pure and make sure that this is the person that God has for me, because I didn't want to be derailed from, either my maybe other different vocation or potentially what God had called for either of us.
Yeah, I think as hokey as it can sound, especially in the world that we live in, those hard and fast rules are so important. I remember my wife and I, and you talk about struggling with purity and stuff, where that really comes in is once you're engaged, right? And once it's like, man, we got 2 weeks, nobody would even know. If you had a baby, it's just a little math error, you know? And I remember us being like, our feet are on the ground no matter what. If we're watching a movie, there's no leaning back in
No
the chair.
horizontal. That was our rule. No horizontal.
We said you always had to have 2 feet on the floor. So you're
Yep.
sitting there just sort of rigidly staring at a screen the entire time thinking, man, we're going to be in Belize on a honeymoon in like 4 days. But let's watch, whatever it is. Yeah, that's
You
great.
can tell if you have chemistry. You don't have to go all the way to explore the fact that you have incredible chemistry.
Well,
and we knew that immediately.
And to throw this out, just to keep going down that line, is that chemistry and that desire, like you said, is a good thing.
It's good.
And we as Catholics who are in this world from, if we're raised in the church and we've got good parents, a lot of times, unfortunately, I feel like our young people sort of have this misconstrued understanding of sex and sexual desire and our human sexuality as it's a scary thing that I need to stay away from because it's bad and it's going to lead me down all these bad paths. And then you have men who are struggling with pornography and you have women who are struggling with promiscuity and all of these things. And so there's almost this lack of comfort with this very good, real thing that God has given us that is a beautiful gift that's just been distorted by the world that we live in. What about you guys? I'm interested in how you deal with it and hard and fast rules and all of this. Doesn't have to be purity related.
This is like really good because I think for us, because I definitely, I guess, formed bad habits through college and not really owning my faith. And it was definitely a journey back for me. And I think theology of the body and the writing there, kind of to your point, made me realize that these desires weren't bad. They were maybe just like directed in the wrong way. Or looked at in the wrong way. And I think as we started dating, I think a really interesting thing for us is you went down your journey to conversion was like putting ourselves in kind of a community-focused environment where we were going to events that called us to holiness or jumping into events at the cathedral and their young adult group to really kind of put ourselves in positions to, I guess, minimize temptation, but also continue to allow us to kind of, we like to say, date in numbers. We always found that we did like a lot of double dates. I don't know, what would you add?
Oh, we did. I will say it's interesting because right before I met AJ, I had kind of entered a stage of my life where I still felt like I was a Christian, but I wasn't necessarily very committed to living that out. And I was kind of in I am woman, let me live my life and kind of be free. And I had a community of people who are still precious to me, but our relationships have changed a little bit over the years. That would encourage me to just do what was right for me when it came to relationships or if I went on a date or what have you. And that was me. I was like, oh, this is good. I feel good about this. And then it was like literally, I don't know, like 2 weeks later after I decided I felt good with it that God dropped AJ in front of me. And not to say that we did not struggle with our own temptations because we're human and we all do. But I think that as we did surround ourselves with community, I mean, Carissa, it was even, and Sean were some of the first people that I really got to know within our faith-based community. And that changes things. It really gives you the confidence, I think, to be proud and courageous when it comes to just the way that you're handling your relationship with your significant other.
No, I mean, a recurring theme that we've had on this show is this idea of community. And I often say something along the lines of, we aren't meant to live as islands by ourselves, right? You can never, it doesn't matter how convicted you are in your faith. If you're the only person you interact with who feels this way and holds these morals and these truths, then you're going to stray and you're going to struggle. But not as often do people talk about how when you are a couple, and if all your other friends who you are with, if you don't have any other good couples or sort of mentor couple, people that you look up to, you're gonna stray. You're gonna go off, and it's a really sad, frustrating thing. I remember going back and hanging out with a bunch of my friends from high school after having a conversion and everything in college, like good buddies, right, from high school, and guys who I thought were really good friends, but we were just kind of using each other to chase girls or to whatever. And I remember walking away and thinking, oh my goodness, how'd they get so gross and weird over such a short period of time? It was a year ago I was down here. And then I had this, oh no, you're gross and weird and you've gotten better. It's not that they've devolved, right? You've actually been around good people and been elevated. Yeah. So that's awesome.
It does. It changes your perspective, and not to put anyone else down, right? There are people and they're all on their own journey, and then you hope by, just being a witness and letting Christ show through you that you can maybe, help others see life a little bit differently like you did. But I do think even now, AJ and I have been married for almost 3 years and we have a child together. My friend group in particular is fairly diverse. So when you talk about all the things that we're being exposed to right now, I have quite a few friends who are, rah-rah for
right.
a lot of the things that as Catholics we are very, very strong in our stance on, and that's not what they believe. So it's even as a couple, as an individual, we're, having to kind of fight that fight every day. But it's our faith that grounds us, if we're ever feeling really lost and confused, whether it's as a parent or as a couple, we're like, okay, well, what's the one thing we know for sure? And it's like, let's sit down and pray, or, get some scripture, and we can always be better about that.
Sure.
Obviously we all can. But that was something that when we started dating, and I finally realized that there was something really cool about the Catholic Church. I was digging it. And it was just this common ground that me and him now had that we could always come back to.
No, praise God. And I want to get around to babies and all these things, but I am curious, and this, I guess, is more directed towards the husbands. Maybe that'll sound chauvinistic, but that's okay. Not chauvinism as a concept, just if it sounds that way. So you're dating this wonderful woman, right? And things are going well, and you're starting to think about the marriage, the possibility of marriage, and like we said earlier, dating for marriage is sort of the idea. When did you realize, or how did you realize, I need to go ahead and lock that down before she wises up a little bit? Like, what do you do?
Oh, this is not going to be good for me.
I'm trying to think of a specific moment where I knew, and gosh, it was pretty off the bat for me. And one thing, we were just talking about chastity, and something someone shared with me, actually, as we were early on dating, that was just gold to my ears. Because we always talk about chastity as, well, I'm Catholic, I'm Christian, I know this is the right way to do things, but what's the so what of doing that? And someone said, don't discount the prize of chastity. You're making this huge decision about who you're going to spend the rest of your life with. You're about to take one of the greatest risks that life has to offer. Jumping into marriage, not knowing, right, in sickness and in health, not knowing if this beautiful person that you're marrying could get into a fire the week of your honeymoon. You don't know these things, right? We can't possibly know those things. And so there's this prize of chastity where as you are going through the dating process and you're remaining chaste through that process, you have a clarity about where you're going. And it's something I wrote. I mentioned Bishop Barron in the beginning. I wrote this on our wedding website before we got married. It was about the greatest of friendships and the greatest of loves is when people are chasing after God together, right? Mm-hmm. It's having some type of elevated third, right? So you can think of great friendships as AJ and I both went to Georgia Tech. We both love a lot of similar things. So we have a great friendship because of those things that we like. And ultimately, my wife and I have a great marriage because we both love Jesus. We've both been saved by the blood of Christ. We've both been brought into this incredible banquet and the fullness of the Catholic Church together.
Right.
And I would say that as I became Catholic, especially, because that was a big question mark for me, being a strong Protestant and then dating a Catholic, that as I got clarity from God about the truths of the Catholic Church and what they had to offer, it just all made sense. Of course I was going to marry the beautiful Catholic woman that was now just conveniently in my lap, right? So, well, not literally, because we're being chaste until marriage. But
back to your question about how did you know, I basically told him, if you want to come to India with me on this mission trip next year, I worked back a deadline. You have to go through 6 months of marriage prep. You need to propose like in the next 3 weeks or we're going to be in separate rooms in India for an entire month.
My wife did the exact same thing.
Oh.
So we were about to graduate from college, or she was going to graduate. She was a year older than me. And she sat me down, and my wife is not a real in-your-face kind of person at all. She's very meek and mild and beautiful and all. She's delicate, right? And she said, so John Henry, I was looking at grad schools because I don't know what I'm going to do next year. And if you can't tell me what I'm going to do next year, I'm going to go to one of these grad schools and maybe somebody can tell me what I'm going to do next year. It was very much like, get your crap together and propose. And I was like taken aback. I'm like, yeah.
I gotta go shopping tomorrow.
He told me later he went to the ring shop the very next day, and yeah.
Just for the record, I'm not great at dates, but if I remember correctly, that conversation was about 5 months into dating.
Yeah, probably.
But that's awesome. I don't know why we feel the need to drag these things out. I really don't.
And in hindsight, it was the greatest thing to just keep moving forward. I feel like I prayed and waited so long to meet the woman, right? Because I wanted a wife very badly. And when one walked into my door and I was real excited about dating and all these things, it was just like, here we go, God. And we'll get into that in a minute with, then the children came, and it was just like all of a sudden it's like you wait and you wait and you wait, and then you meet the person, and it's just 0 to 60
waterfall.
It's just, and it's invigorating. It's fun. But it's also exhausting.
Yes.
And so that whole
Exhausting.
ride into marriage, into parenthood, I wouldn't have had it any other way, but yeah, it was a blur, man. It was a bit of a blur.
Praise God. AJ and Sarah, we're going to get to you guys in a minute. I want to hear the same question to you guys, but we're going to take a break right now. I think you guys have some babies to check on. So
Yes, we
it's
do.
going to be a lot of fun. You are listening to Honest to God on 1160 AM The Quest, Atlanta Catholic Radio.